What's up, everyone? I imagine a lot of you are users of Google Chrome, and you've probably even used Google Chrome extensions, but have you ever thought about what it would take to create one? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to create your very first Google Chrome extension. So let's go ahead and dive on in. All right, so I talk about this a lot. When you're a developer, you kind of transition your mindset from being just a consumer, just someone who takes in websites and applications and uses them, and you kind of transform yourself into a producer. You look at something like a website or an extension in this case, and you start to think, hey, maybe I could build that thing and I could build it better or differently, or I could build something that doesn't exist. That's where this video idea actually came from me. So one of the issues that I was trying to solve is when I go to share my YouTube videos, to go and find links to recent videos, I have to go to YouTube, I have to click on my channel, I have to then go and find the video, click on it, open it, then copy the URL for that video. And if I want to do multiple videos, I have to do that multiple different times. And I wanted an easier way to do that. And I thought, why don't I create an extension in Google Chrome where I can just hit a drop down and then grab links. And you can see in here, actually, this is the extension over here, the JQ YouTube links. And when I click on that, it pulls up my most recent 10 YouTube videos. And I can either click to watch. This will open in a new tab there to go ahead and watch this video. Shout out, this is the conversation I did with Justin Chow about life outside of or beyond programming. And then also I could just copy that URL. So if I copy Netlify serverless functions, which will actually be relevant today, and then paste that in, you'll see that takes me right to the video. So that stuff is working, which is pretty cool. So what we want to do is go ahead and set up how to create your first Google Chrome extension. And I will put a link to this. This is where I started. This is an article in SitePoint of create a Chrome extension in 10 minutes flat. It gives you the basics, but we're going to walk through that stuff today. So I've got open a a VS Code window with no files in it. And I think the way you start traditionally is by creating your manifest.json. That's usually going to be the first thing that you create. And inside of here, you're going to have several different things. The first is a manifest version. I haven't looked too much into this, but from the things that I've seen, 2 is the version that people have been going with. Then you'll have the name of whatever your extension is. In my case, it's JQQ, YouTube links. And then you'll have a description. So in here, obviously just give a basic description of the extension, shows recent YouTube video links from JQQ, not WW. And then the version of the extension, in this case, is going to start off with 1.0, and then you would need to increment this every time you go to republish this. And then kind of the meat of this gets into the browser action. And what we're going to define here is in that object, 2 different properties. One is the default icon. So you'll need to have an icon in here. And you can do icon.png. You could use anything. It's not super important here, especially as we're testing, but you could use something like Sketch or Figma to create an icon and then pull it into your project here. I am going to copy this one. Can I copy and paste that right inside of here? There we go. So this is just a little YouTube icon that I copied and put in here so I can reference that one. So we'll have the icon, and then we'll also have the default pop-up. Now this is basically going to be the HTML that shows when the user clicks on the extension. So in this case, we'll just call that popup.html. And the last thing, we don't need any specific permissions here, but you could have in here an array of permissions of things that you need access to with this Google Chrome extension. So that's all we need in this thing. Again, the power of this really comes from the default popup, if we spell that correctly. And this is popup, not just pop. So default popup, this is going to be the HTML that shows when the user clicks on the extension. So we can also go ahead and add our popup HTML file. We will have a popup JS file because we'll need to do some JavaScript. And then if we want to do some styling, we can have a popup CSS. All right. So inside of the HTML, inside of VS Code, you can do just bang and get the emit abbreviation here for an HTML file. And we can call this the JQQ YouTube extension. I'm not even sure the title shows up extensions or not. But anyway, so we've got that there. And then inside of the body, we're not going to put too much. So I'm going to have a little bit of base styling. We're going to wrap everything in a container just to give some spacing. And then we'll have an H2 here for just the title, JQQ YouTube links. And then we'll have kind of a placeholder of our items that we want to display. So this will be an unordered list with an ID of links list. And this is the thing that we're going to make a call in JavaScript to go and get these links and then go ahead and display them. So the last thing we'll do is we'll pull in the script of our popup.js. So popup.js, all right? So that is there. So at this point, we can go ahead and actually kind of use this thing. So if you go into Chrome://extensions, you can see all the extensions that you have included. And I've got one already done for testing, the JQQ YouTube links. I'm going to turn that one off. And then under load unpacked, basically what you can do is you can kind of tell it what folder your stuff is in. So in this like test folder, JQQ YouTube extension, I can tell it, hey, just look for the files inside of this folder. And then if I go to my extensions dropdown and now look, there should be the JQQ YouTube links. So let's pin that. And then I'm going to click it. And you see all we get is just like our little bit of HTML, that's what we want. And that's all we need at this point. So that's able to work. And then now we can go into our JavaScript file and start to work on some of the logic there. Now we need to wrap everything inside of the DOM content loaded event. And the callback here is going to be an async function because we're going to make a request to what actually is a serverless function to get back the list of YouTube videos that we're going to display here. So that's what we're going to do. We will get a reference to the links list equals document get element by ID, and we'll get that from the links list. And what we want to do is then make our call to our serverless function. Now, this is kind of a separate story. So I want to take a break here and just kind of show you inside of Netlify, I've got a serverless function called recent YouTube videos, and I can call this thing and it will show me the recent YouTube videos inside of here. So there's all the information that we need. We just need to call this API. Now, if you're wanting to do something for yourself, if you're interested in setting up Netlify serverless functions also, this Netlify serverless functions with Netlify Dev will teach you about how to set up those serverless functions inside of Netlify, also to test them locally and then get those set up in Netlify. So you'll be good to go there if you need it. Otherwise, you can use something simple. Maybe the Chuck Norris API is something that you might be interested in to just generate a random joke to kind of give yourself a laugh for the day. It's a free, easy to use API, so you can find whatever works for you. But in this case, I've already got kind of my API deployed to Netlify, and that's what we're going to call. So I'm going to copy over this URL, and I will just paste it in there. And then we're going to make a fetch request. Now, I think this is kind of cool here, where I have a fetch snippet inside of VS Code where it will do like the try catch. It will go ahead and set up the actual fetch there, so I can pass it the URL. And it's basically all kind of the boilerplate code that I would need in here to make that request. And then this data that comes back is actually going to be videos. All right, so that looks good. We'll be able to get all that stuff. Now what we want to do is take those videos and actually transform them into basically LIs. So let's do this with, we'll say videos HTML equals, and we will take our videos and we will map over them. And so for each video, what do we want to return? Well, we want to take the information for that video, turn it into an LI, a list item, and then go ahead and use it. So the first thing we want to do is get the video URL. Now, this is not something that comes in the API that I created. What does come in the API is the video ID. And if you look at the format for YouTube videos, they're usually youtube.com/watch and then $V and then equals and then the YouTube ID. So that's what the URL is actually going to end up being. So the video URL is going to be, let's just do ES6 backticks here. And I will do HTTPS www.youtube.com/watch and then V equals, and then now we'll use the value of the video ID. So video.video ID. All right, so that'll be our URL there. And then now we want to, like I said, generate the actual, basically an HTML string. If you've seen React, this will probably look a little bit familiar, but I'm going to return an ES6 template literal string. And we'll start with an LI, and if we open it the correct way, we will add a couple of classes, or just one video link inside of here. All right, so there's going to be our LI. We'll go ahead and close it out. And then inside of here, we're going to have a button with a class of BTN for button. And then we'll have a property data URL equals, and this is a little bit maybe confusing for all this templating in here. Again, we're inside of an ES6 template literal string. So when we set data properties or classes, we need to surround them with quotes and then put whatever value we need in there. So we're going to put the video URL inside of here. And this will be the copy button. All right, so we'll have that copy button. And then we'll have the anchor tag with also a class of button, just so the styles are similar there. And we'll have an href. And again, this will use the video URL. So this will actually take you directly to the URL versus the copying part. All right, so there's the video URL. And then to make sure this opens up in a new page, we can add a couple of extra properties here. No opener and no referrer, as well as the target equals underscore blank. All right, and we'll close it out. We'll title this as watch, and there's our anchor tag. And the last thing we want is the actual video title. So we'll just say video.title inside of this LI. So what this is going to do is it's going to generate an LI element for each one of those YouTube videos. And then it map basically puts that into an array. So we want to convert that to a string by calling .join down here. So at this point, what we'll have is an HTML string with all those LI elements inside of it. And we want to go ahead and add that to the inner HTML of that links list. So this will be the videos HTML. All right. So let's save that and let's just see what this looks like. What we can do, this won't work automatically. So what we need to do is basically tell Google Chrome to go ahead and refresh those files. So we can say just the refresh button here. And now we can click on this and hopefully this will populate. It looks like I've got an error here on the inner HTML. All right, that's kind of cool that it actually shows you that there. So this should be the links list thing that we get up there. And I think we misspelled our ordered list here of linked list. So we want to make sure we spell that correctly. And now let's come back and let's refresh this again. And let's click on it. And now this doesn't look great, but you see we've got our copy URL and we've got our watch. Now the watch should actually work. That should actually take us to the YouTube video. So that part at least is working. And the only thing we need to do after that is set up our copy. Now you can look up, let's see, copy text in JavaScript. It's a little bit hacky. Basically what kind of happens is you end up selecting some sort of text from an input. So you do some sort of select, and then you run the execute command and tell it to copy. And then you can you actually have that stuff copied to your clipboard. So the interesting stuff that I found is it basically like takes the text that you want to copy, which in this case is the URL. It then creates an element on the DOM with that text in it. It copies it, and then it gets rid of it completely so the user never actually notices. So that's what we're going to do is go ahead and create that function. So we'll create the const copy equals. It's going to take in E as the target there. And we want to get the URL from that element. Because remember, we have the data URL property here. So we want to grab that URL as the thing that we want to copy. So we'll say string equals e.target, and to get any property off of your data set is .dataset dot in the property that you want to copy. So notice that URL matches what comes after the data dash there. All right, so we've got the string. Then we want to create an element. So document create element, and we'll create a text area. Not really important what this is. And then we'll say the text area value equals the string. So this is where we're putting it into that text area. Now we add it to the body. So document.body.append child. We'll add that thing to the body. And then we will select its text. So el.select. And then we will copy its text. So document.exec command. We'll do the copy command here. And then after we've copied it, we'll go ahead and remove that thing. So document.remove child of or with the element that we created above. So this is a little bit kind of hacky, honestly. It seems a little bit odd. But again, what we're doing is we're taking in this element that the user has clicked on or clicked the button for, and we grab the property for the URL, and then we create a text area. We add the value of that text area to be that URL, that string. We add that text area to the body. We copy that. We select the text. We copy it, and then we remove the child. And the user never even knows that this happens, which I like is kind of hacky, but I also think it's cool. So the last thing we want to do is make sure that inside of here, we go ahead and update each one of our new items that we create. So each one of these LIs that we create, we make sure that we set the onClick command to this copy here. So we're going to have a little bit of kind of a scoping thing in here where the function that we just defined is inside of this callback. So it's not global to JavaScript. So we can't just set the onClick inside of HTML. We need to do it in JavaScript. So what we'll do is after we add all of these LI elements to the DOM, we will now iterate through the new links that we just created and update to add their event listeners. So let's get a reference to the video links, and this will be a document.query selector all, and then these have a class of video link. All right, and this will return what is called a node list. We actually want to copy or convert that to an array. And we can do that with the spread operator in JavaScript by just taking each one of those elements and dumping it into an array. And because of that, then we can use the for each in JavaScript. So for each link, we want to set link.add event listener, the click, to be that copy function. And this should kind of take care of everything else that we need. Let me look. I think this looks right. So let's go in. Let us, I think we can, these are just old errors. Let's clear those because I think we're good here. Let's refresh this and let's pull this down. And we see the links. We should be able to hopefully copy the URL there. So there's the copy. And then I'm going to paste it in. Nope, looks like that didn't work. All right, so looks like that didn't quite work. Let's see what we might be missing here. And I think the thing we're missing is we never actually set the onClick handler because we didn't query the right thing. This should be .video link. So query selector all, you pass in your classes and IDs versus like querying by class or ID specifically. This is just a general query. So hopefully this will change it. And I added an alert in here for testing. So I can just leave that in and we'll see if we're getting that back. Okay, so let's refresh this extension. Let's come in and let's click the copy URL. This should pop open an alert to show me the link that I copied. And then if I paste this in, this should take me to that conversation with Justin Chow. All right, so that looks like it came back okay. And then let's just try one more to make sure these work. In the, let's do the Netlify one. So Netlify serverless functions, let's copy that thing and just make sure that that takes us to the right page as well. All right, and it looks like it does. So that's really cool. Just kind of a quick recap here on what we did for a Chrome extension. The cool thing is this basically really just comes down to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You can do whatever stuff you want to. So inside of the manifest JSON, you can define a few things: the version, the name, description, the version of your extension specifically, and then the browser actions. So the default icon, so that's the icon that you see. And then what thing do you want to display when the user clicks on that extension, pop up HTML. And then from there, it's basically just regular HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And I can change, let me throw in just the very basic styling that I threw in here. So let's do that and then refresh. So just to show you that you can add your CSS. Now, did that get, I don't know that we probably didn't pull this in as a link. So let's link to CSS and this will be the pop-up CSS. All right, so now let's try again to refresh this and we'll see if we get something styled. There we go. So this is what the final version looks like. So again, it's just kind of regular HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which is pretty cool. All right, and the last thing I want to show you is just how to, what you would do to actually publish this Chrome extension. So if you come into developer.chrome.com, it costs you $5 to kind of register as a developer. So I did that. And then what you'll do is you'll take all of your files and you'll zip them up. So you'll create a zip file with all of your files in it. All right, so inside of the Chrome developer dashboard is where you want to be. Once you get to the Chrome developer dashboard, you can see that you can add a new item, and then you can just upload that zip right there. And there's some other metadata and things you have to figure out. But that is how you would go through and actually publish. Just create a zip, throw that up on the Google Chrome developer page, and add in your metadata, any screenshots or things you want to show people about how to use it. So that's it. Pretty cool. I think that we can use our basic HTML, CSS, JavaScript web development skills to upload and create a Google Chrome extension. So if you enjoyed the video, if you want to see more, if you have ideas on things, let me know in the comments. I'm kind of curious, have you created a Chrome extension? If you have any cool Chrome extensions to share, throw them in the chat below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you can get updates as new content comes out. In the meantime, thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.